Hello everybody, Andy here again. Well, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. Don't worry, I don't think it's swine flu. So I haven't started going oink yet or anything like that, but just one of those things that comes over the weekend and ruins your weekend, and you just can't shake it off, and it's gradually working its way through. At the moment it's sort of coming out through my nose, but you don't really want to know about that. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, as per the title of this particular video, a couple of events that have happened to me over the last couple of weeks. Two completely different events, one wedding and one funeral, but common aspects between the two of them. Now, the wedding was the wedding of my brother-in-law. He was getting remarried, and to his wife, who is also, it was her second marriage as well. They went away for the weekend. We went down to Bath, and the actual wedding took place in a hotel in one of those over here in the UK. I don't know what it's like where you are, but since they've opened up the sort of laws concerning marriage licenses and where they can do the ceremonies, they can pretty much do them anywhere, but they have to apply for a license. They can, apart from the obvious churches, register offices, that type of thing, official venues, should we say. You can do it probably do it in a pub, I suppose, in a bar, if they apply for a license or something like that. You can do it on board ships, and people go away and do these sort of things all over the place now. And I personally, I think that's a good idea. And what they did, they were in a nice hotel down there in Bath, and a nice little room. There was only, I think there was 18 of us all together, sort of close friends and family, etc. And because of that, we've all been to weddings in the past, and I'll be honest, I've never been a great lover of them, but for me this was something a little bit different. It was a bit more of a sort of a celebration type of thing. Some weddings, you go to them and I don't know, the atmosphere isn't right, or there's something about the services, because the service is so strict if you're in a church. And this video has got nothing to do with religion or anything like that. I have nothing against religion and religious services and things like that. It's just that the point that I'm making here is that this was a non-religious ceremony, as was the funeral, which I shall come to later on. And to me, it was more of a sort of a celebration type of thing, because it freed the people whose wedding it was. It allowed them to mould the ceremony, the service, to what they wanted. For example, they had two readings that were read out, which they picked themselves. One was done by the daughter of my brother-in-law, and one by the mother of the bride as well. They picked the music, this type of things. I know that churches are moving that way as well, so that these things can be done. But they dispense with a lot of the other bits of the service. There are still the legal parts that have to be done. But to me, it was quite good, and it was quite an interesting ceremony, as much as it made me think about sort of 20 years ago when I made my own vows, and it made me think about that quite deeply, actually. And it's sort of, I think, talking to my wife later on, because it was the way the service was conducted, because it was more intimate, more less people there, I suppose, in the smaller environment, and a nice atmosphere. Not there's a nice atmosphere at other weddings, but it just trying to encapsulate what it was like there. There was something about it that made me focus more on what was actually being said. So many times we go, probably to anything really, if it's more intimate, you're more attached to it, you actually take in what is being done there, what the whole purpose of the event was. And that's what I found, and that's probably why I listened more to what was being said by the registrar, to the other people, some of the music maybe, and also to the readings as well, and the content of the readings. And to me it was more personal, and it made me think. And funny enough, my wife and myself were talking later on about both of my children, and how whether it sort of struck them. I haven't actually asked them yet, but whether it sort of struck them, whether it sort of struck a chord because of the way that it was conducted, whether it actually made them think about what they might be facing in the future, which is, to me, is a good thing. If marriage is a long-term prospect, and there's a whole idea of giving you vows, etc., and this is what I'm talking about here, but so many people possibly go into it without really thinking about it, without really reading between the lines as to what those vows actually mean. And it would be good if my sort of children who were there, and the other children that were there, my nieces were there, maybe it made them think about it. And the fact that it was a celebration, two people very happy, which isn't always the case at weddings. Let's be honest about that. So I've been to weddings and you think, I'm not so sure about this, and I've spoken to plenty of people who've walked down the aisle in the past and have thought, I don't know if I should be doing this. I can understand, those nerves, etc. But sometimes they really mean it, and it's been borne out later on. But this was one of those occasions where it was a celebration, all being done for the right reasons, etc. The love, etc., was there for everybody to see and to feel and experience, and a great event, I think. Coming on to the funeral, once again, obviously, these can be very sad affairs, and they're sad in their own way. But when the service is conducted in the way that it was, once again, it was a celebration of the person's life. Now, when I die, I'd love to think that people won't be all morose. Yes, it would be nice to people to sort of mourn your passing, I suppose, and regret the fact that you're not there anymore. But let's celebrate the person's life. This particular person had a good life. We all have our good lives in our own different ways. We've all got stories to tell. We've all got anecdotes that people can tell about us. Once again, the ceremony was done basically by a friend of the person who died. It was a crematorium, sort of a proper place, if you see what I mean. But when the hearse, the coffin came up towards the chapel itself, we all congregated at the sort of cemetery gates and followed the hearse, which was preceded by a New Orleans style jazz band. Now, you've probably seen sort of pictures and film, maybe footage of New Orleans sort of style funerals, and the way that's celebrating that music, that sort of jazz music. I'm not a big jazz fan, but some of that traditional stuff, you just can't help but walk in rhythm to it. And what a great send-off to me that was. And everybody said the same thing. It just created the right atmosphere. The person was a big music lover, but it really created the right atmosphere and got everyone sort of smiling, in a nice way at a funeral. And I'd like people to say, for my funeral, I'd like them to be smiling, not be sad. I've had a good life. I don't want to go yet, but I've had a good life, and let's celebrate the fact that as long as you get to a decent age, and this person was in his 60s, a bit too young, yes, but as I said, they lived a good life, and it was a celebration of that fact. And during the service, there was remembrances from some of the children involved in the person's children, from the guy's sister as well, and it's all conducted by like a family friend. Some great readings, some great remembrance, some great anecdotes, some laughs, and also some great music played during it, but also a live performance as well by a very good local sort of jazz pianist. Did a couple of songs, one a Leonard Cohen song and one a Tom Waits song on electric piano. And as John, the guy whose funeral, had said, I want you to applaud this. This is live music. You should be applauding. And that's exactly what we did. And what a great thing that was to hear that and those particular songs, especially the second song, which was that song called The Briar and the Rose. And I know, speaking to the pianist afterwards, she found it quite hard to sing it because it's a great song, one that I've played on the radio myself, and her particular version. So once again, a great celebration, and as I said, when the coffin had come up into the chapel, we all filed in, and then you heard the jazz band start up again and march their way away from the sort of ceremony as well. And as I said, a real celebration. So two completely different types of events there, two completely different celebratory events, different ends of the scale, of course. But to me, that's exactly how all these things should be. They should be celebrations of life, of marriage, of birth, whatever it is, rather than sort of getting bogged down sometimes in things. We need to celebrate these things. We need to be joyful about these things. And especially with the funeral, that really struck me. But as I said, with the wedding as well, because of the way it was conducted, because it was joyful, because it was intimate, as was the funeral in its own way, although there were a lot of people there, you felt at one with everybody there, and you listened to what was being said because of that, maybe. So I'd love to know if anybody else feels this. It was just an experience for me that sort of a chord had been struck. I mentioned possibly before about a funeral I went to not too long ago. Another unfortunate event, another person only in their early 60s, once again, possibly died a bit too young. But once again, a celebration of the person's life, a different type of service, and to me, a great one as well. And that's, as I said, if I could go anyway, have a New Orleans jazz band sort of precede my coffin up there and have a celebration, have a laugh at my expense, play some decent music, and celebrate a life well spent. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for your time. I shall speak to you again soon. Goodbye.